who's to say this whole thing isn't a lie? That what you're telling me is a lie? Because if you are lying, it's the most cold-blooded thing that I've ever faced in my life.
Hello, my friends, my beautiful friends. How are you today? Hope you're doing well. Hi, welcome back. Been a while. I know. I feel like that meme where that woman comes in and she's just like,
Hey, how y'all doing?
But yeah, I am back, and I've already filmed this video once, and it took me like over 3 hours, and then I looked back on the footage, and oh my god, the audio was poop, and the makeup look I did not end up liking. Here's a picture of the makeup look I ended up doing, but I didn't like it, and one of the lashes kept like falling off, so oh my god, and I didn't notice while I was recording. Long story short, I'm redoing it. I'm doing it well. I'm cutting out all of the extra stuff that you don't want to know. Or maybe you do, I don't know. Are you like the type of person that likes deep dives? I know that I do, but honestly, when I'm looking at like someone doing their makeup, I'm kind of focusing on two things at once. So I'm doing my makeup and telling you the story at the same time, and my little brain, I don't know what it is. I just cannot focus on doing both at once. I'm just like, and so it took me like 500 years to film that, and now I'm redoing it. So that's how my 2022 is going. So I've got my notes over here, so if I'm looking over, yes, I write all my own notes. Who is she? Miss Professional. So I'm just gonna hop right into it because we don't need no awkwardness. This has already been super awkward. Also, I had a procedure done on my teeth, and like my wisdom teeth hurt so bad, like the gums around them. So if I'm like throughout this, I'm so sorry again. If it looks like I have a lisp at some points, I'm sorry. Things are swollen in there. It hurts. Deal with it. I'm so sorry. That was so aggressive. I forgot to film a warning at the beginning of the video, but it goes without saying. We're going to be talking about murder, obviously, because this is a murder case. We're going to be talking about self-harm. There are mentions of suicide, so just be wary of that. Okay, let's get into it. So our story is about Jennifer Pan. Do you guys know about this story? Do you know about Jennifer Pan? Have you heard about it? The reason why I chose to do this story is because I know all of the places that they're talking about in this entire case, because I used to live in Toronto. I used to live in Aurora, Ontario. And I know people that live in Markham. I know people who live in Scarborough. I grew up in the area. And like, I know all of the places that are mentioned in the case. So it hits so close to home. So that's why I chose to do it. Also because it's absolutely batshit crazy. Okay, so our story begins in Vietnam with a man called Han Pan, which is... Okay, and some people say it's Pan and some people say it's Pan. So I guess I'll just call her Pan. Jennifer Pan? Pan? Whatever. If I say Pan or Pan, that's who I'm referring to. The family. The Pan family. Okay. Han Pan or Pan. You know what? If you're Vietnamese, please tell me, how do you pronounce it? Because I'm so curious. I want to know. How do you pronounce that? Han immigrates to Canada. Another reason why I chose this particular case is because I can relate a lot, because my parents immigrated from Italy to Canada as well. Same area, Toronto, and that's where they raised us. So I can absolutely relate to the feeling of being a fresh immigrant, the feeling of having your parents like learn a language and you know the language before your parents do, and like you're teaching them words while they're also working very hard, learning a new language. Like, it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. But this guy, he immigrates to Canada in search of a better life, as we all do. The North American dream is what everyone strives for. And once he arrives in Canada, he meets this woman called Bic. And she is also from Vietnam. So can you imagine, you come from a place and then you move in search of a better life in a new place, and you meet and fall in love with someone from your country. Like, it's such a meet cute moment. No? Is it just me? Like, I think that's so adorable. I think that's like straight out of a movie. So they moved from Vietnam as political refugees, and they get married in Toronto, which is where I grew up. So I just felt so very connected to this. Can you just imagine how lucky that was for them? Like, he moved a couple years before her, and so it was just all very fateful, I think. No? Because what if he had never moved and then she moved, or if they were both in Vietnam but never crossed paths there? Like, they had to both be in Canada, you know, learning things, having like the same sort of experience. So of course there was a lot of connection, and they fell in love and got married. I think that's so cute. I'm so sorry, I'm such a sap. So Han and Bic both worked for Magna International, which was an auto parts company. Like, they built the parts for cars. I believe Bic worked as a die maker, and she made some parts, and Han assembled. So they were really working hard for their money. I mean, these folks came from a background where like it's very hard work focused and orientated towards education and building a name for yourself. And they both immigrated to Canada in order to have better life, better opportunities, you know, be able to earn money and have like all of the things that you've seen like on TV, nice big house, nice cars, have a nice family, like real old-fashioned values. You know what I mean? Like, they just wanted to work hard and make a better life for themselves and potential future children, so that their future children would never know the struggles and hardships that they had most likely faced back in Vietnam. Remember, they're political refugees, so they obviously had a rough life there, otherwise they wouldn't have immigrated. As a side note, Magna International was located in Aurora, Ontario, which I actually lived in. Our first big house as a family was in Aurora. We had a really big, beautiful house, so I can just imagine, like, when I'm thinking about it, it's like gated community, people go horseback riding, like on the weekends, like that type of vibe. Everyone's got like a nice picket fence. It's like very upper class. So I'm imagining them going to work every day and being surrounded by that type of lifestyle, those types of people, and seeing all of these big houses every day while they're hustling, while they're grinding, while they're getting that bread. And they're just like, one day I am going to have that. That is what I want for the future. So that is exactly what they ended up doing. They bought a house in Markham, so very close to Toronto. I believe it's like an hour-ish away, and it's all picket fences, beautiful lawns, like always mowed, picturesque. Like, they've got little fences around the trees, you know, in Lady and the Tramp, where Tramp is going down the street and he's like, fences around the trees, wow, fancy, classy. They moved there when Jennifer was 18 and Felix was 15. So they had Jennifer and Felix pretty much after they got married, and Jennifer was a couple years older than Felix, but they were both very, very gifted children. If not like from birth, then how their parents raised them very much made them become that intelligence, intellectualness, education oriented. So you know how Han and Bick worked at a car manufacturing company? Well, Han wanted his son to eventually become a mechanical engineer when he grew up, so he could be the one designing the cars instead of like being on the assembly line or working on putting the parts together. He wanted his son to be like high up there. He had some, ins in the company, and then he's like, yeah, you're set. You're gonna go become an engineer. Then you're gonna come work with us. It's gonna be beautiful. Like, it's gonna be one of those amazing fairy tale sort of things. And for Jennifer, instead, he decided, yes, because Han was the one deciding everyone's future, he decided that Jennifer was going to be a doctor. He's like, yeah, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be an engineer, and you're going to be a doctor, and it's going to be amazing. And I think this whole thing stems from the fact that they come from a whole other culture that really, really, really puts importance and emphasis on education and like becoming the best version of yourself that you can be, and really putting in a lot of work, effort, all of it, and like being better than your parents. Like, your parents came here with nothing, and you're going to go to school and you're going to become something, like that sort of a situation. So both parents were kind of viewed as, they call them tiger parents. It's sort of like helicopter parenting, but basically it's more of an Asian culture phenomenon. Well, not phenomenon, maybe it's just the culture. But tell me if you are of Asian descent and your parents were kind of like this, where they really honed in on you about, homework and extracurricular activities, and making sure that you were always on top of everything, and your grades were super important and stuff like that, because that was exactly what the Pan parents really put a lot of pride in when it came to their kids. At just 4 years old, Jennifer was already playing piano, and she was figure skating, and she had a lot of hopes in going into the Olympics when she was a little bit older. Unfortunately, she tore a ligament on her leg, which prevented her from doing a lot of, the loop-de-loops and all of the things. So she kind of had to say goodbye to that dream. But can you just imagine this? Their parents were all about school and extracurricular activities. So imagine waking up every morning, 7 a.m., whatever, you're showering, you're having breakfast, you go to school, your parents drop you off at school, you do the whole however many hours at your desk, and then your parents come pick you up, and then right after that, you are dropped off at a sports center or an after-school club, or to practice an instrument or to do a sport or whatever it may be. And then you come home at the end of that, have dinner, have just enough time to study, and then by that point it's like 9 and you have to go to bed because the next day you're starting it all over again. Like, it's just so exhausting even to think about. And these were like children. They were doing that from like as soon as they were, actually before then, because Jennifer was 4 years old when she started learning piano. So even before they were of, kindergarten age, they had so many expectations put on them. So both kids were expected, of course, to have straight A's, and that meant no like boyfriends, no girlfriends. Those were distractions. You have to study hard, and bring home all of the A's B's, it's already like a little bit not as good. Like, it was very much one of those situations. So imagine you are Jennifer or Felix, and you are in the Western experience, right? You're North American, and you see all of your friends around you, like on the weekends, they're going maybe to the cinema, or they're hanging out at the park, or doing what kids do, like preteens, teenagers, whatever your age is, and you're like watching them, and you're just like, why is it that I cannot do that also? Why is it that I have to stay home on this beautiful, bright, sunny day and study? Or why is it that I have to go and practice piano or practice A, B, C, and D? Why can't I just relax for like a day? It was like you see your friends having a different experience from you, and even though your parents expect different things from you, you don't necessarily have that point of view. And now I'm going to put in my personal thoughts throughout this case, and you can agree to disagree, but I'm gonna just play devil's advocate and like see things from both sides. The parents, having grown up with nothing, have a lot of expectations on their children, and they worked really hard to get where they were. So they are the type of mentality where they come from nothing and they're building an empire, basically. They built themselves from the ground up. While their kids don't necessarily have that life experience, they were raised in a situation where their parents were already kind of successful, working hard, had their house, money. I believe the parents drove a Lexus and a Mercedes. Like, they had money, and they were very frugal and good at saving and knowing when to spend. Like, they were just very much on top of things, very budgeting stuff, you know, those type of parents. So when you're like surrounded by people who their parents work hard as well, and they're just like yours, but their parents, you see them be like, yeah, sure, honey, you can go to XYZ's house and have a slumber party, but your parents like, no, you have to study. I don't know how to explain that. Like, your parents grew up in their situation, in their country, in another culture at that point in time historically. And you're growing up in this time, in your situation, in this culture, and it's completely different. So I believe there was like a quote, I don't remember who said it, but it was like, raise your children for the time that they're in. Don't raise them like how your parents raised you. You have to constantly keep up with the time period that you are. Otherwise, there would never be advancement in society. I mean, we would still be living an old-fashioned way where you'd like light up candles and stuff. There's always advancement in society, in technology. So parents have to update the way that they raise their children. So the Pans, they were kind of trying to raise their children how they were raised in Vietnam. So very strict, very parents in control of everything, parents watching over your shoulder and making sure that their grades are top priority, parents making sure that they've got all of the extracurriculars down. And that might have been great in Vietnam. Maybe their parents raised them like that. But in the Western culture, where it's more like, yes, grades are very important, but also we have to think about mental health of children, let them go out and socialize, talk to other kids, maybe do something that they like, maybe do a social activity that they like, or an extracurricular activity that they like. Maybe they're into music or painting or something that maybe you necessarily don't think will have importance in their future. Like, I know a lot of people have that mindset. If you're into art and you're a painter, that's not going to pay the bills. those sort of people, they still exist. You know the ones. But basically what I'm trying to say is that parents should adapt their methods and not necessarily raise their children how their parents raised them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The parent standards were extremely high, and the kids were thriving to an extent. But remember how I said that Jennifer's dad wanted her to be a doctor? Well, he kind of realized that his daughter was super squeamish. I mean, I know that I am. I see a little bit of blood and I'm just like, I start feeling faint. So he was like, you know what, instead of being a doctor, I think you should go into like pharmaceuticals. Like, you should be a pharmacist. So you're still under that branch. Like, you're still gonna bring honor to us. I can still brag to our friends in Vietnam and like our family here. So I think that's a good path for you. Like, you don't have to be a brain surgeon and go like cutting into people, but you're still under that branch and in that field. So I'm good with that. Not once did he ask her what she would have liked to have done. Maybe things would have panned out differently. I'm stopping now. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be this way. I don't know why I'm the way I am. Please forgive me for being weird. I'm so sorry. So they moved to this brand new house and stuff in 2004. It's a wonderfully diverse area, culturally speaking. There are a lot of Asians. So they feel very at home, everything's going lovely, and their kids are doing great. Except around 8th grade graduation, Jennifer, she's about to graduate, she's about to go into high school. This is an exciting time in any tween's life. She's about to graduate and she realizes, hey, wait a second. Why am I not getting any recognition for all of the hours I spend studying, all of the straight A's I've been doing? She didn't get valedictorian, which is something that she was really looking forward to. She really wanted. She didn't get any like medals or trophies or anything like that. And usually, you know how it's kind of corny, but sometimes you get like an award for being, I don't know, never missing a class ever throughout the entire middle school experience. Stuff like that. But you usually get some kind of recognition or award or something. But she didn't get anything, and she was just like, hold on a second. So I've been busting my butt, and I'm not the smartest person at this school. Something kind of snapped then. She was kind of like, what is the point of working so hard, of going to bed at like 2 a.m. every night or every morning, and nobody even cares? My parents don't care, because every time I bring home an A, they're like, well, where's the A+? I don't get recognition from them. And my teachers aren't recognizing me. The school isn't recognizing me. What is the point? Was what Jennifer is thinking. So, this is when you start to see things take a complete flip in her life. She starts not caring about her grades anymore. Trigger warning, at 13, Jennifer even starts self-harming, and you can kind of see that she is very much not doing well, okay? She is feeling very claustrophobic. She's feeling like her parents are constantly on top of her, telling her what to do, telling her what she's gonna be when she grows up, all of that. And she just feels very much not in control of her own life, of her own choices. Even though she's young, she has been this way. It has been this way her whole life. Now, I'm sure that there is a psychological aspect to this, but if you come from a household where your parents are very overbearing or maybe even overprotective and kind of always hovering over you. Where have you been? Give me your phone. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to go there. Who you're talking to. Like those kind of parents, you tend to grow up being very good at kind of twisting the truth a little bit. No? Have you ever thought about that? Basically, when you are constantly looked over and you feel like people are a little bit overbearing with you, you kind of want them to get off your back. So you kind of make up little things to make them kind of feel better and to give you some breathing room. So imagine your parents drop you off at a library and they're like, we're going to come pick you up at 3. But you want to hang out with your friends maybe. When they call you, asking you if you're ready, you're kind of going to be like, oh my God, how do I end up hanging out with my friends, but making sure that I'm making my parents proud at the same time, so they're not like yelling at me and they don't come pick me up right now, because if I tell them I want to hang out with my friends, they're not going to let me hang out with my friends because that's not important. So, oh, I know. Mom, actually, I just remembered that there is a pop quiz tomorrow and I really have to start cramming and I totally spaced out, but my friend Valerie is gonna help me out, so I'm gonna stay at the library a little bit longer and Valerie's mom is gonna come drop me off, okay? Is that okay? Cool, okay, bye. Like those kinds of lies. Let me know if you know people who are like that, or if you grew up with people around you who kind of always fibbed a little bit with their parents. You know the ones. I know the ones. I've got a couple in my noggin right now that I know have done similar things. So because Jennifer now does not prioritize getting good grades and studying, her grades start to plummet. And instead of telling her parents, oh, I'm kind of doing really poorly this year, help, she instead does not want to let her family down or like take crap from them. So she instead falsifies her report cards, which I did not even know you could do, but apparently you can. And little Jennifer here, she was really good at like paper macheing. I don't know. She was like cutting stuff out and like collaging things, putting A's in some places, photocopying, getting other people's report cards and like photoshopping. She was very creative, this girl. So anywho, I don't know, big props to Jennifer. But anyway, you know how her parents, or well, her father in particular, really forbade her to date because they thought it was like a distraction. So she never really took an interest in boys because of that. But there was a time where her band, her school band actually participated in like an overseas performance. So they ended up going to Europe, and this guy on her school band who like played the trumpet, I think it was, and she was playing the flute. His name was Daniel Chi Wong, and he was a year older than Jennifer. Basically, there was like a lot of smoke in the auditorium where they were performing, and Jennifer suffers with asthma. So she started having a panic attack, and Daniel kind of took her outside and was like, breathe, take deep breaths in. And she never saw him in that light, but then suddenly it dawned on her that Daniel was like her savior. And from that moment on, she had like an obsession with him. Like, this guy was amazing. I mean, he had just saved her life. A little bit dramatic, but I can sort of see where her mentality is, because she's never had a boyfriend before, and she's not even allowed to look at boys that way because it's a distraction, and her dad would literally just be like, no. So for this guy to just randomly out of the blue, like, take care of her, show her compassion, show her empathy, and like listen and look out for her emotional state, like, how are you doing, anxiety wise, etc. It was very out of the norm. Not to say that her parents did not love her, that's not what I'm saying. It's that they showed it in a way that maybe in our culture it's very different. Yeah? Like in our culture, if someone loves you, they'll hug you usually, give you kisses, ask you how your day has been, how are you doing? Oh, you want to talk about it? Like that sort of a thing. And that shows that they care. But in another culture, maybe how they express that they love you is to make sure that you're well fed, have a roof over your head, and you have clothes on your back and a good education. And like, that's how they express their love. And that's not wrong, but remember, we're not from the culture, so we don't know how things are in another place. And remember, I said before, you should probably raise your children for the environment that you're planning on them thriving in. If you're going to stay in Canada and you want your children's lives to be in Canada, and you're not planning on leaving anytime soon, you're not planning on going back to Vietnam, you should probably raise your children how they would in that environment so they can thrive and grow into, functioning human beings that do well in that society. I'm not a psychological expert, so don't come for me, but that's what I think. Anyway, Jennifer and Daniel start a romantic, secret affair, and probably rightfully so. Even if her dad had allowed her to date, he probably wouldn't have been number one top priority choice. See, because Daniel was a drug dealer. Weed, more than anything, which now is legal in Canada, but back then it was not. So imagine your parents strict beyond strict. Very paranoid about everything, making sure that you are on the right path, the straight and narrow path to success, or what they think is success, their view of success in life. And then you bring home your drug dealer boyfriend. Like, I don't think her daddy would have been liking that very much, but I'm gonna say it out, man. So even though Jennifer kind of falsified some report cards to her parents, her grades were still acceptable because she got an early acceptance to Ryerson University. I know so many people who went to Ryerson. Such a beautiful place. I visited the campus a couple of times to meet up with friends. Their library is incredible. But on her senior year, she failed a calculus course. So Ryerson actually pulled the plug, and they were like, no, we're not going to accept you into our facilities because you failed the class. So of course, Jennifer goes to summer school. She graduates the class. She ends up going to university, maybe even a semester late, but better late than never. And the end. Of course not. This wouldn't be Jennifer Pan if that were the case, would it? No. She ends up faking her acceptance to Ryerson, to her parents, and she's like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to go there for 2 years, and then I'm going to transfer over to the University of Toronto, where I'm going to go into the pharmacology department, and I'm going to make you proud, Dad. And her parents were like over the moon, overjoyed, ecstatic. This is exactly what they were planning for her life. So it was very good, very good. Her dad is particularly super excited. He even goes out and gets her a new laptop to celebrate. He's like, you're gonna need this when you go to university. I want you to type up all of your essays. Nice, relaxed. You're doing great, sweetie. Good job. So she feels that sense of like, oh my God, they're proud of me. This is great. This feels good. So she is awarded for fibbing and lying about all of this. So she gets this sense of like false security about it. She's like, if they don't find out, I can keep getting that pride from them, and it's going to be amazing. So that's what she does. She said that she won $3,000 in scholarship money to pay for tuition. Her parents are so excited. They're like, we don't even have to pay for books. Like, girl, you have been studying a lot then. Wow, okay. And Jennifer goes all out too. I mean, she starts buying secondhand books on the subject of pharmacology. She watches videos, like YouTube videos on the subject. She even uses the library. I'm sure it was the university library because, as I said, it was amazing. And her boyfriend, who was a year older, actually was in university. So I'm sure he had the access to all of the books. And she would stay at libraries and cafes for hours when she was meant to be at school, just like studying and writing notes. And like, I cannot help but think, girl, if you had just gone back to school, graduated high school, you could have actually done this because you're doing the absolute most and you're not even getting credit for it, right? You're not even in a course and you're doing the course work. So you could have actually just have done the thing. I don't understand. And I know what you're thinking. All right, well, after a while, her parents kind of took notice, right? Well, no, she put up with this charade for years, and she was working part-time at Boston Pizza, which I don't really like the pizza of back in Canada. I much prefer 2-for-1 pizza or pizza, but you only get the New York style pepperoni because the normal pepperoni tastes like ass. She also taught piano. She gave piano lessons on the side. Like, this girl was actually doing the most ever, and she was hanging out with Daniel, of course. And what I would love to know is, why did she not just actually graduate? Like, she could have gotten like her GED or done some kind of after school, I don't know, gone to school at night, something. Because it does not make sense to me doing all of that and still being a high school dropout. Like, you are doing university level schoolwork, taking notes about a thing that your parents think you're already doing, so why not just do it? So at one point, she asks her parents if she can go and stay with her friend Topaz, who lives on campus. And she says, I can go live with her 3 times a week. That way, on the days where I have my classes, I don't have to do a commute, because it's like a long drive or a long commute by train and bus. And like, that time spent in a car or on a train or in the subway or whatever, I could be using that precious time to study, Mom and Dad. So can I go live with Topaz like half the week? And her parents, of course, are like, Jennifer, you're incredible. Of course you may. Of course you may. Because they're just thinking in their head, this girl is all about the education. We have instilled in her some excellent values. She's really going for it, and they're very, very proud. So she's feeling that acceptance from them, and she gets to go live part-time with Daniel and his family, which, by the way, have absolutely no idea that her parents disapprove of Daniel, that her parents don't even know that she's dating Daniel. In fact, they keep asking, when are we going to meet your parents? Like, we can go out for pizza together. We can go to Boston Pizza where you guys work. And like, we want to meet your parents. We want this to be like a tight-knit kind of, situation. Of course, being Jennifer, she keeps on making lots of excuses as to why her parents cannot meet with the Wongs. So, nobody caught on with any of the lies. So this could have gone on until she graduated from university and then not had anything to show for it, i.e. a certificate, and then go into a working force, working at Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever it is that her parents expect her to work at. And at this point, you would think, okay, you got a good thing going for you, Jennifer. Shut up. Go take a part-time course somewhere, get your high school diploma, and then go to school. Actually, your parents will never find out. No, it's taking years for her to just not do a single thing and fake all of her notes. So she's kind of getting bored at this point. She's like, I need a new lie. I need a new lie to make my parents kind of like look at me a little bit more, gain more attention maybe. I have no idea what's going on in this girl's mind, because if I were her, I would have done all of the things differently. First of all, I would never have lied to my parents. I would have told them, like, look, I failed and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to summer school. I'm going to make it up. Don't worry. I got this. But Jennifer is so beyond the realm of what normalness is. She says that she's volunteering at Sick Kids Hospital. And I know Sick Kids. That place is like the top of the top, creme de la creme. The best doctors, best everything. So she's saying she's going to go volunteer there. And not only that, she's going to get a part-time job at Walmart in like the pharmacy section. So she's going to put all of that in her curriculum, and it's going to make her resume just like pop and shine. And she's like, I'm going to do all of this to really make it look like I am doing the most and I'm the best at this, Mom and Dad. Like, I think it's really going to look really good on my resume in the future. So that's what I'm doing. And her parents are like, what? Sick Kids? Holy crap. And you're also going to work at, and you're also taking classes at this, you're doing all of these things? Really? Really? But she gets what she's after. She gets a lot of praise and attention, and her parents are super proud of her, really excited for her future. But keep in mind, at 22 years old, this girl had never gotten drunk. And remember that in Canada, the legal age of drinking is not 21, like in America, it's 19. So she'd never been in a bar. She'd never gone clubbing. She'd never hung out with friends. Her dad actually would drop her off at a friend's house back in high school. And like really, really late at night, he'd just drop her off and then pick her up really, really early. So she never even got a chance to connect with people in that way. I remember being in high school and having so many sleepovers. I'd sleep over at my friends, they'd sleep over at my house, and we would study a little bit, but mostly just like goof around, watch videos, watch YouTube, braid each other's hair, put on like really crazy dramatic makeup, and it was the best time. And I could not imagine going through high school without having those experiences and having those like essential moments of socialization and building that friendship group and that bond, because that's all about what high school is. Yes, it's about the grades, but it's also about you learning how to interact with other people, other humans, making friends. It's good to do that, because then when you're older and you go into the workforce, into a career, you got to learn how to communicate and work well with people and maybe be friends with your coworkers. I don't know. But it's not all rainbows and butterflies, because her parents are not dumb, okay? They came from another country. They learned a whole new language, okay? They're raising 2 kids and they're working hard every day. They have $200,000 in their savings. They drive the best cars. They live in a big house. They're not dumb. They start getting suspicious because Miss Jennifer, see, and this is why I don't understand why she had to go above and beyond, because Miss Jennifer says that she's working at Sick Kids Hospital, right? Well, normally when you work at a hospital, you get like a name tag or a badge or scrubs or something to indicate that you were working at the hospital. Because if you are not wearing anything to indicate that you work or volunteer there, how is it that I'm supposed to know that you are a volunteer or worker at the hospital? Like, you could just be a regular old civilian, a regular patient or client or whatever. How do I know that you work at that establishment, right? So they're just like, where's this girl's scrubs? Where's this girl's name tag? Key card, something. She doesn't have anything. She doesn't have anything. In her room, she doesn't have anything. In her bag, nothing. So where the hell does she go all day? So they start getting a little bit sus on their daughter, and she starts feeling the pressure when I'm telling you, they're not dumb, okay? This is why I'm saying they're not dumb. Her mom and dad drive her to the hospital. They're like, hey, Jennifer, so we're actually going to, I don't know, go shopping or something near the hospital. Since you gave us your schedule and everything for sick kids, because she's like expanding every day on her life, pretty much. They're like, we want to take you to work, okay? And she's like, oh, crap. So she cannot say, no, do not take me, because that would just raise more suspicions. She says, okay. And they drive her to Sick Kids Hospital. But before her parents have a chance to, I don't know, meet her supervisor or someone working on her team or whoever she's working under or volunteering for, she books it into the hospital and hides in like one of the waiting areas for hours. Her mom is just like walks in after her after she runs inside, and she's looking for like Jennifer, and she can't find her, so she ends up leaving. And they're kind of like, well, I guess maybe she was busy, but it's still, they still have that, like, they're still a little bit sus on Jennifer, right? So do you know what they end up doing? They end up calling Topaz, which is an actual person. What a cool name, Topaz. She actually exists, though. So Jennifer was kind of smart in including another person in her lies. I'm just kidding, don't ever do that. But she was kind of like a real person, right? So her parents pick up the phone. They're like, hello, Topaz. Can we speak to Jennifer? Because it was one of the days where Jennifer is meant to be living at Topaz's, but Topaz ended up either not remembering that Jennifer was meant to stay with her on that sort of day, or forgetting the day, or something got messed up, or some sources say that she didn't even know that Jennifer included her in the lie. So basically Topaz is just like, Jennifer's not here. I don't know what you're talking about. And her parents are furious, especially her father. The gig is up, okay? They know that she's not living with Topaz 3 days a week like she said. So where the hell are you living, Jennifer? Where do you go when you're meant to be living at Topaz's? Because Topaz says you don't live there. So she gets confronted by her parents, and they're just like, we know everything. And she sort of gives them like a half-truth. She's like, yeah, I didn't get accepted into Ryerson, and I've been living with Daniel for like half a week and blah, blah, blah. She does not tell them that she did not even graduate high school. At this point, why do you not just come clean with everything? I mean, this girl just... So her parents give her an ultimatum. Her dad is just like, you go to university like you said that you've been doing all these years, and you do the thing that you've been lying to us that you've been doing, not knowing that she hasn't even graduated high school, and you have to break up with Daniel. Those are the rules. Or we're gonna kick you out. Plain and simple. Meanwhile, her brother Felix is actually like in university, and he's living on campus, like wherever it is that he's doing university. So he's actually gone and done the thing thinking, oh my gosh, my parents are so proud of my sister. She is so great. She's been like early accepted into Ryerson. She's doing this, this, and this, and this. She's also volunteering. Like, he's just like in awe of his sister, right? So he doesn't know. And Jennifer has to like choose between Daniel and going to school, but she can't even tell her parents that she can't even go to school because she has not even graduated high school. So, long story short, she ends up choosing her family because she says later in an interview, she would say, family is everything. So I chose my family. Which is so ironic considering what ends up happening, Jennifer. Anyway, she gets a 9 p.m. curfew. Her father takes away her cell phone. Like, it's very much, you're going to do what we say from now on. And things end up becoming even more stressful in the household, as if they weren't bad enough before. Now her parents don't trust her. So it's even worse because now they are helicoptering on her every single move. They check the mileage on her car to make sure that she is going where she says that she's going. Like, not even going half a mile over the limit, because they're like checking the gas and everything in the car. It's like that. It's very much like trust has been broken. We are going to hound you from now on. Make sure that you're doing what you say that you're doing, because we don't trust a single word. You are a liar. We raised a liar. Goodness, I have no idea how they would have taken this. Like, can you just imagine? You've done everything. You've gone above and beyond for your child, and they end up just breaking your trust like that. This is why I'm scared of having children, y'all. Like, you could do everything right or wrong, or maybe you're just an average parent and you're just taking things as they go. You're not amazing, but you don't suck either. But your child could still end up like hating you and doing whatever the heck they want at the end of the day. Ain't that just a kick in the balls? She still ends up sneaking around to meet up with Daniel here and there. But ultimately, Daniel starts getting very, very tired of these shenanigans because he's in university now. He doesn't have time for these dramas, these dramatics. He's like, I'm tired of this. I want to have a girlfriend where I can meet their family. I want to be able to like not sneak around with my girlfriend. Like, I'm grown now. I'm like 23. Okay, I'm an adult. So he breaks it up with Jennifer, and he ends up going out very quickly, actually, with this girl named Christine. You can imagine how Jennifer felt about that. So what does she do? Does she, A, move on, maybe finish high school finally at the age of 22, maybe meet someone new as soon as she enters that stage in her life where she does end up actually going to university, studies, gets a good job, reconciles with her parents, builds trust again, and finally stops lying? Or B, does she tell Daniel that a man posing as a police officer barges into her house, and then he's quickly followed by a handful of other men, and they all gang abuse her in her home, causing excess amount of trauma, and then a couple weeks later gets a bullet mailed to her house, very threatening, like very mafia-like, in order to get Daniel back. Maybe gain some sympathy in order to reel him back into her web. Have you chosen which one? Is it not obvious? Either Daniel is like really, really dumb, or he is incredibly naive. Because remember, this guy has been with her since high school. He has seen the progress of lies and the way she has shoved them all in her parents' face and everyone else's. And he knows what she's capable of doing, and he knows that she's incredibly dramatic and capable of coming up with all of these random things. So you would think, you'd hope that this boy, this man, would be just like, yeah, no, that didn't happen, Jennifer. I know that you're a little bit crazy, and I know that didn't happen. Bye. Nope. He ends up getting back together with her. Yes, sirree. Daniel just can't get enough of Miss Pan. So I've rambled on enough about all of the backstory, okay? We're getting to the events of the case, what led to this unfortunate day. It's November 8th, 2010. Jennifer's dad comes home late because he accidentally left something on or left something at his workplace. So he comes home late, and him and Bick have like a little altercation where, you know, it's like the classic parent thing, like, if you were gonna be late for dinner, why don't you call me? So I could have like stalled a little bit, and now it's still gonna be like cold, like that sort of thing. Very minimal banter between parents, and that all happens. So he ends up reading the Vietnamese newspaper, watching some TV, and Bick ends up going out dancing with her friends, because this was like a thing that she did with her friends. It was a way to unwind and relax after a long week of working hard, and it was something that she really enjoyed doing. So she goes out line dancing, and Han is super tired around 9 or so. He decides he wants to go to bed. So he goes upstairs and goes to sleep. Jennifer is at home. Felix, again, is at university, you know, on campus, nowhere near the scene. And she's studying. Bick returns from dancing late at night, and she does that thing where she fills up like a basin with water, with hot water, and like maybe sea salts or something, and puts her feet in there to relax and unwind, because maybe she was dancing with heels or something and her feet hurt. They're kind of swollen, they're kind of sore, so she puts her feet in water and kind of tries to relax. Jennifer comes downstairs. She's like, yeah, I've just finished studying, blah, blah, blah. And she gives her mom a kiss, and she says goodnight and goes upstairs to bed. But before she heads upstairs, she unlocks the door, the front door, and goes into the study and does that thing where you flick it on and off to alert someone who is outside. 3 gunmen enter the Pan family home, and they take Bick downstairs to the basement. It's not hard to do because she's got her feet in the water. It's not like she could have run anywhere. And she was totally taken by surprise. Han wakes up to a gun pointed at his face upstairs. He like wakes up in bed with this gun pointed at his face, and this gunman telling him to come downstairs. And he follows, of course, you know, meeting their demands, not wanting for an altercation to ensue. He follows them downstairs like he was asked to do. Things at this point are very fuzzy and hazy because certain reports say that they took money, etc., and certain reports say that they just brought them to the basement and started this whole horrifying scene. They end up shooting Bick once in the back and then once execution style in the back of her head, and she just dies right then and there. And they shoot Han, Jen's dad, in the face, so he goes down, and then they skedaddle right on out of there, apparently. Jennifer, in the meantime, she is calling 911. I don't know if I'm allowed to put the call here. If I can, I will do so now.
Where are you, ma'am? Please just ma'am, my parents are. Ma'am, calm spell the street name for me, please?
Dad? You're calling on me.
Ma'am. Hello. Hello.
Yes?
Ma'am, I need to know your address. Avenue Road, can you please spell?
In Helen Avenue, my dad just went outside screaming.
Ma'am, can you spell the street address for me, please?
H-E-L-E-N. Someone broke in and I heard shots like pops. I don't know what's happening. I'm tied upstairs.
I've heard pops. I've heard pops. My parents are downstairs. There were men in the house. I'm tied up upstairs. I'm tied up upstairs. And she is screaming her head off. The operator is trying to keep her calm, asking her, to spell out the street address because she wants to know to be able to get there faster. It would take a little bit of time for them to see where she lived. They have like that geolocation, but you have to be on the phone for a while before they pick that up, and she's afraid the gunman might still be around, so she's asking her, can you spell the name of your street? And she's just like, she takes a while to say the name of the street and everything. She says it a couple times. Could you spell it out for me? She is frantically, it's all over the place. But at one point, you hear Han, Jennifer's dad, downstairs screaming, okay? He is not dead. He was shot in the face and he is still kicking, okay? You hear a blood-curdling scream, fear and trauma in his voice, but he's just screaming his head off and he books it. He leaves the house right away. He goes and flags down a neighbor. And Jennifer, you can hear her kind of like frantically screaming downstairs. She's like, I'm calling the police. I'm okay. And you can totally tell that it's so fake and like rehearsed and just, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So the police come and she's tied up to the banister, like at her arm. And they take her in for questioning because she's basically the only survivor, because Han is taken to the hospital and he's put under an induced coma because he's been shot in the face, to make sure that they get everything right, because everything is still like, fresh in her brain, and they want all of the details as soon as they can so they can catch these guys. Now, if you watch the interviews with Jennifer, you can see that she breaks down a bunch of times in and during the interviews, but she never like actually cries. She fakes it. She's like, but she never actually cries. It's kind of eerie.
They were trying to find her wallet, but her English isn't good, so she kept saying purse. They kept pushing her down onto the chair.
Okay. Take your time. Take your time. All this is very important, so take your time.
And I think I heard my mom say or moan or something, and then they did one more before they left, and then one of the guys said, we have to go now. It's been too long.
The police are kind of already sus on her, because, like, why would you kill two people and then leave one person alive as witness? If you're gonna go the extra mile, if this was a break-in and you went the extra mile to actually murder the people in the house, why would you leave one witness that, like, could go to the police and tell them how you look like, give a physical description of you, tell them about your accent or how your hair looked or how tall you were? Like, no. That's a little bit... That never happens, really. Why would they tie you up but bring your parents downstairs and shoot them execution style, Now, at first, they were kind of sympathetic to her, like, her mom just was killed and her dad's in a coma and this must be incredibly traumatic for her if she's not involved. But they were very suspicious of her. By miracle, I don't know, the universe must absolutely adore this hardworking man. Han, wakes up on November 12th, 2010. And Not only does he wake up after being shot in the face, in the head, okay, where his brain was, where they said that if the bullet had been just millimeters over, it would have hit like a very important vein and he would have bled out and just died a very slow, painful death in the basement right then and there that day. But it didn't, and he could remember everything. And his story was very different from Jennifer's. He said that his daughter was talking very friendly to the intruders, and she was not tied up upstairs. Maybe not at first. Maybe they had done that afterwards, because they did find her tied up upstairs on the banister. Jennifer, was like walking around with one of them, kind of talking low and like, you know, chit-chatting in a way that made Han think they know each other. There's absolutely no way that an intruder would come into the house and then like make friendly with one of the hostages, and like she was not panicking. She was not freaking out, asking them, you know, could you please let go of my parents? Like, she was not crying. She was talking normally to this guy. He says that when he and Bick were brought to the basement, they were made to put like towels or drapes over their heads, but Bick was not having it. She was like, I don't want to put anything over my head, and please do not hurt my daughter. Do not hurt Jennifer. If you have to hurt someone, please hurt us. And he recalls one of the intruders saying, oh, don't worry, we talked to your daughter and nothing bad's going to happen to her. She's very nice, which sent chills, I'm sure, up and down his spine, because that's when he knew, oh yeah, they're in cahoots. I'm sure that these guys know my daughter. So at this point, police know that Jen is lying. They don't tell her that her dad has woken up from a coma, though, so they kind of like lead her on in that way. And they end up doing that a lot, actually. On the 15th of November, though, Jen and her brother Felix were at her mom's funeral. How incredibly disrespectful would that have been? Like, that is just so beyond messed up. Now, police look at that and they are even more suspicious than they were already, because this girl doesn't even shed a tear at her mom's funeral. Like, if you could be any more suspicious when you are laying that person to rest, don't cry, don't do anything, just sit there like... And I know that different people have different ways of mourning, but come on, it's your mom. So police take her in for some further questioning, and they ask her to please replicate how she was able to call the police if her arms were tied behind her back and her arms were tied to the banister. How was she able to call the police?
Tied my upper arm
Yes?
around the banister,
Yes?
but my hands were bound together.
So your hands bound together, and this is the arm that's the strings wrapped around against the banister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now how can you get to the phone? And how do you make the phone call?
She replicates this pretty well. I mean, she was, you know, an athlete. She did do figure skating, so I'm pretty sure she's very flexible. And she's able to show them how she managed to call the police and how she was yelling down at the phone on speaker. So they perform what is known as the raid technique, which is basically lying. They should just call it the lying technique. And it's kind of very much ironic because the person who has lied their whole life and gotten to this point in her life by lying is lied to by the police. And it's like supposed to be a technique used when the police are 100% sure that they have the guilty person in their custody. And the thing that they tell her, oh my god, it's like, it makes me laugh. Okay, so basically tell her that the FBI has got these satellites, right? And they orbit all the time around big cities and stuff. And they say if they want to, all they have to do is get a warrant to look at some of the footage taken by these satellites and they are able to see heat movement right through buildings. Obviously, this is all a lie said by the investigator, but it's very interesting. I wonder if they're working on something like this or if this actually exists by now. And he says, so we can actually see if you were tied up to the banister the entire time, just like you said, because we can replay that footage and see where everyone was at the time of the killings of these murders or attempted murder case of her father. And she just starts freaking the fuck out. So after 5 hours of interrogation this time, she breaks down and confesses. But do you think she would tell them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her? No, come on, this is Jennifer, hello. She says, yes, she has something to do with it, but she hired the hitmen to come and kill her because her life was so hard and she's been feeling suicidal. So she hired the hitmen to come kill her as like a suicide hit.
You can have expectations for your kids, but you can't expect them to do everything the way you want it. It doesn't feel good to have secrets, does it? It's not worth it anymore. It's hurting you. So you're supposed to take the whole family out?
No, just me.
What went wrong?
Now, I understand feeling so low, the point where you don't want to be around anymore, and surely that in itself is devastating to even, talk about and think about ending your life and really being serious about it. But to hire someone to kill you is a completely different ballpark. And I mean, that is so gruesome and also traumatizing to the people that live in the house with you. If you hired someone to come and shoot you with your parents in the house as well. So the police obviously do not buy this story at all. They let her go on with it. Go ahead and explain yourself. Sure, why not? We've gotten this far. So she says that she hired this hitman called Homeboy. That's his name, Homeboy. She pays him $2,000 to come to her house to eliminate her. Okay. But then at one point, she ends up changing her mind. So she calls him up, right? She's like, yeah, remember how I said that I wanted you to come over and get rid of me? I changed my mind. You can keep the money though. Totally. For your time, but I do not need your services anymore. Thank you very much. Goodbye. But apparently wires got crossed and the hitman, misunderstood and said, oh, she doesn't want me to kill her. She wants me to kill her parents. I'm sorry, what? I don't understand. When do the lies stop with this girl? They just do not. That doesn't even make an ounce of sense. At first, she's just gone off the deep end. Her lies they're not even feasible anymore. So, they end up charging her with murder. And attempted murder on November 22nd, 2010. They check the phone records, they find out the names of the men involved, and I have their names right here. There is an Eric Cardy, who lived in the Rexdale, Toronto area, but was homeless at the time of the murders, or murder and attempted murder. There was a Lenford Crawford, who was the gang leader, I suppose, aka Homeboy, and he lived in Brampton, Ontario. There was a David Milnaganam, who lived in Toronto, and of course, her boyfriend, Daniel Wong, who actually got her in touch with Mr. Lenford Crawford because he sold him weed at one point. Now, David was arrested on April 14, 2011 at the mall, Jane and Finch, which if you're from Toronto, you know Jane and Finch. Eric was arrested on April 15, 2011 while he was in prison for another murder. Daniel was arrested on April 26, 2011 while he was at work. Lenford was arrested on May 4th, 2011. May the 4th be with you. In Brampton. So, trial started on the beginning of March 19, 2014, and it lasted for 10 months, and they were all convicted on December 13th, 2014. Jennifer was sentenced to life with no chance of parole for 25 years for the murder of her mother and attempted murder of her father. And her father and brother both requested a court order that banned her from ever contacting any living member of their family ever again, even if she does end up getting out of jail. So she will never be able to talk to either of them ever. And even though there was a lot of debate around this going on, especially with the defense protesting against it, the judge actually granted the request. So Jennifer will never, ever talk to her father or brother again, ever. And she's also banned from ever seeing or speaking to Daniel. So let's go into my thoughts, shall we? I think it's safe to say that Jennifer had a lot of issues, okay? She was a pathological liar. I think we can sort of all agree that it was borderline pathologically lying about everything, even though she didn't really need to further her lies anymore. She did it for the attention from her parents. And I'm sorry, I keep fixating on the fact that the entire time she could have literally just gotten her GED and actually gone to school, because she was telling her parents that she was, and she was doing the work and taking notes and everything. Now, we're all adults here, right? I mean, I hope that we are. I hope if you're watching this, you are mature enough to be able to take in this content. And if you are underage, or if you're not meant to be watching this, what are you doing? Go away. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We want you here, but maybe, like, ask your parents first. You know, I don't want to be responsible for traumatizing a child. Okay? Thank you very much. So anyway, as I was saying, we are all adults here, and I'm sure that we're able to see things in multiple perspectives and not just be focused on one singular mindset. You know, we're open and able to understand multiple ways or views of thinking, okay? So I can very much understand the point of view of the parents, and I can understand Jennifer. I'm sure she must have felt very, very trapped and unable to do the things that other people, her peers, her friends, other people around her were doing. I understand that sense of like claustrophobia and maybe longing. And I can understand if maybe she was feeling trapped and also suffocated a little bit by her parents, because all they ever valued was a good education, and they wouldn't let her date, and they wouldn't let her do this or that. And she was very tired because, you know, all day, every day was that same routine. I look to the parents and I can see where they're coming from. I understand that they're coming from another culture and things are done differently there. But then I also understand that she was feeling some sort of way about all of that because she doesn't want to be raised like they were in Vietnam. She wants to be raised and she wants to have a life like everybody else around her in this country. So I can empathize with both her parents and Jennifer. But ultimately, if you're gonna go as far as to hire a hitman to kill your parents, I think that we're going a little bit beyond the realm of, you know, poor me, woe is me. It's now going into that psychotic level of, if I can get rid of them, then my life will be better. Because her and Daniel actually found out that her parents had a life insurance policy, and in the event of their death, her and Felix would get $500,000. So that would be enough to, you know, start up her life with Daniel without the pressure put on to her to succeed in the way that her parents want her to. And she would be free to be with Daniel, go to university if she wanted to. She would have the money to, or go straight into work, or do whatever she wanted to do, you know, set her future up with her boyfriend and, you know, make sure her brother was okay, but her parents really needed to go. Like, in her mind, that was the only way you're able to have a good life is if your parents are not around. Then there must be something wrong there, you know? Like, it's just not normal to feel that sort of way about your parents. And, like, I know people who have had parents who have completely abandoned them, don't want to see them, have given them to foster care or dropped them off at grandparents' houses and, like, left the picture. Like, there's a lot of different types of trauma, but I've never heard of someone being so angry at their parents for wanting them to succeed so much, for feeling smothered by their parents, like, pressure to be successful, and you want them gone so badly because of that. I've never heard of that. So, and also, I did not know where to put this into the video, but at one point she actually remembered. She remembered that she had a friend from high school, or, well, not a friend, but like someone that she knew, you know, maybe she had a class with him or something, but she remembered that this guy was always kind of like talking about how he wanted to get rid of his parents. So she contacted him before talking to Daniel if he knew anybody, and like, this guy got her in contact with a hitman, because he wasn't actually serious about killing his parents. He was just kind of saying that because maybe he was frustrated with them, but he put her in contact with a hitman. And like, how are you guys finding all these hitmen? I want to know, is Toronto like swarming with hitmen? I did not get that vibe when I was living there. So Jennifer gives him $1,500 to kill her dad in the parking lot of his work. And the hitman's like, okay, cool. He takes the money and he's like, bye. And he just dips and ghosts her. And it's not like she can go to the police and be like, this guy stole money from me. Because what is he going to say if they take him in? Oh yeah, she hired me to kill her dad. So obviously she can't say anything. So she just lets him have the money. And that's so like, it's so messed up. Oh my God. Also, what kind of like discount hitman are you trying to, like, I understand being frugal, but $1,500 to kill your parent would assume, you know, $10,000, $20,000. You want to pay them top notch because they could be going to jail for you. Nobody's going to go to jail for $1,500, Jennifer. I don't know. Maybe she thought she was getting some kind of a deal. I don't know what's going on in this girl's brain. She just kept lying and lying and lying. She lied her little head off. Anywho, she hired these other guys, homeboy, Mr. Lemford Crawford, and his buddies to come do the deed with just $2,000. But she promised them, you know, after I get the insurance money and I claim that, I'm going to be giving you guys much more money as soon as that comes in. Right now, I'm going to just give you like a deposit to make sure that it's all good in the hood. And, you know, I'm booking that day in. So don't go killing any other people on that specific day. I want you guys at my house, just like, you know. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but sometimes you just gotta laugh at these things. Otherwise, you'll just end up being very, very, very sad. So that is the story of Jennifer Pan and all of the lies that she told everyone and the lengths that she went to get rid of her parents. Do let me know if you guys have heard about this story before, your thoughts on it, and also do let me know about any other cases you would like me to research and make more videos on. I'm gonna go, but yeah, hope that you enjoyed this little story time telling thing. I know it's not fun to talk about murder, but it's interesting. I know I'm not the only one who thinks it is. All right, see you guys later. Bye.
It's your choice.
Okay, I'm very nervous, and I
Why are
don't
you?
remember
Why are you nervous? Tell me about why you're nervous.
because I don't want to say the wrong things.
So
Because that day was a lot,
you're right.
and I've been scattered, and so bits and pieces are here, and some pieces aren't here, and
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about having to lie to your parents?
I felt guilty, but every time I tried to bring it up, there was just so much expectation.
Did you have any resentment towards them for this?
I chose what I chose, but in the end, I chose my family. I'm just afraid because, like, I know everything is just all pointing negatively right now, and I don't understand why. I feel that, like, the way you're speaking to me, it's kind of like, I know you said that you had to say those things, but it's here, and I've already said it to the special victims yesterday, but there's, like, ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to say it out loud.
So you're telling me that you had no involvement in what happened, meaning not saying how the outcome came, but you had no involvement in any type of illegal activity that would have drawn you or the attention of you to have bad people come to your house looking for large sums of money. You're not involved in this any which way. Because the question obviously stands, Jennifer, is you're upstairs and they're downstairs.
No.
Right? So it's a natural concern why would they leave you alone? Why would they not do the same to you? You can't answer that question? There is nothing that you've said to me today is a lie. Now, back to another very difficult question. But if I don't ask it, it's an obvious one. The resentment that you may have had towards your parents for the interference in your relationship and your life and essentially locking you down in your house.
At the end of the day, I love my parents and I chose to be with them. And if I wanted to, I could have just left, but I didn't. I wanted to stay with them and take care of them.
So this wasn't some evil plot that you thought up to...
Oh my God, no.